Welcome to episode 23 of Escape the Rat Race Radio. I'm your host, Christian Rodwell, and this is your ticket to escape the 9 to 5.
Don't just focus on being good at something, focus on being good at something and being good at business as well. I would rather try and fail. I can definitely live with trialing and failing, but I cannot live with not trying. I can't really bear that. That will be the biggest regret, that I had this idea and I never actually gave it a go, or I had this opportunity and I never even explored it. And if the opportunity turns out to be nothing, or if the idea turns out to be nonsense and it all ends up failing, then at least I can live with myself to know that, hey, I give it a good shot. I can't live with myself in that sort of limbo phase of I don't know what could have been, or should have, would have, could have.
On this week's episode of Escape the Rat Race Radio, I'm very pleased to welcome Junior Ogunyemi. Now, Junior's someone that I've known for over a year now, and he really is someone that cares about the success of up-and-coming aspiring entrepreneurs. He is the founder of Entrepower, previously the Entrepreneur Academy London, where he invited over 150 aspiring entrepreneurs to be part of a very, very supportive community. And he had speakers every month from leading entrepreneurs in the UK, names such as James Caan from Dragon's Den, Kanya King, Mobo, Brad Burton, Carrie Green, and many, many others. So if you're someone that is looking to escape the rat race right now, maybe you've already been working on your escape plan for several months, maybe even a few years, and you're still not quite there, then I think you're going to learn some really valuable lessons from a conversation with Junior today. And some of the tools that he's used, such as writing a book, which have really elevated his status and allowed him to start generating an income from speaking, which has led to so many other opportunities. So listen carefully. There's going to be some real golden nuggets of wisdom in our conversation today. So let's not wait any longer and head over to my interview with Junior Ogunyemi. So welcome, Junior, to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you today?
Hey, I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's brilliant to catch up with you. It's been a few months since we last spoke, and in that time, you have brought your wonderful Entrepreneur Academy London event to a finale, which I was very, very privileged to be part of last year with so many other aspiring entrepreneurs. So that was a wonderful experience, and we'll come on to that in a short while. But before we do that, let me just ask you, where in the world are you today? Location-wise,
So I'm just in my home office at the moment,
Yeah.
over in North London. Yeah,
Yeah.
North London, Enfield. So I'm enjoying a nice summery afternoon, summer/autumn. I think the summer's fading away now. So
It is, yeah. Well, I've just obviously spent the summer out in Lisbon, Portugal, so I've got my dose of sunshine for this year, and it's back to the UK, and it's actually brilliant to be back. We had our meetup event last night, and it was great to see everyone and just be back in the thick of it.
welcome
So,
back.
Junior, for those of our listeners who have not had the privilege of meeting you or hearing you talk, why don't you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself and who you are and what you do?
I'm a serial entrepreneur myself. I coach other entrepreneurs as well, and I'm an author of 2 books. The first book was How to Be a Student Entrepreneur, and the second book was 6 Strategies to Get Out the Rat Race. I spend most of my time now working with entrepreneurs who are either transitioning from the 9 to 5 into setting up their own business. And I also still work with universities and colleges and educational institutions. Especially off the back of the first book, I became well known as a speaker, particularly in schools and universities. And I worked on several government campaigns to encourage entrepreneurship around the UK. I started winning lots of different awards for the business ventures I was doing. I've worked with venture capitalists to help mentor and train their pool of entrepreneurs that they invest in. And yeah, I'm a bit of an activist to encourage entrepreneurship. I always get excited when one of my clients or someone I know comes up to me and says, I've just quit my job, or a student says, I'm not going to apply for a job. I'm actually just going to set up my business and go forward with it. It's quite exciting. It's like, yes, I've got another one converted.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
pretty much what I spend most of my time doing.
You're still a young man, Junior, and you started at an early age with the whole entrepreneurial mindset. I'm curious as to if you ever actually were in the rat race yourself, and what encouraged you to get into business at such an early age.
I've never actually worked a normal job to the shock of my parents. I've never, I mean, I've got an NI card, but I've never really used it other than businesses that I own. I think it was probably my oldest brother who gave me the first push, because he's 10 years older than me, and he moved into entrepreneurship by setting up his own business. And he used to always go to these seminars and these books, and I used to pick up there and start to read things. I knew a little bit about entrepreneurship just by watching him, and he was always sort of a bit different to everybody else. He was wanting to push boundaries and things like that. That started to shape my thinking in terms of, should I become an entrepreneur? I was one of those kids at school, which I was a jack of all trades, basically. I was good at science, good at maths, good at English, good at sports, captain of the debate team. It was pretty much every option was open. I knew that I always wanted to get paid for something I loved doing. That was the big thing for me. It has to be something that I love doing. And I saw a lot of people, especially adults at the time, I was probably about 15 or 16, and I saw a lot of adults who were slaving away at work, and they said it was a career path that they chose and they loved, but then they'd probably fallen out of love with it, or for whatever reason. Yeah, so to cut a long story short, and I saw people like my mum always moaning about her boss and people like that, and it just put a negative stigma in my mind about having a boss or having someone tell you what to do. So I always wanted to somehow be my own boss and do something that I love. And at that age, I was quite young and quite naive. I thought, you know what, I'm going to get paid to play football because that's one thing that I love. And then I thought the next best thing to playing football would be coaching football. Again, going back to another conversation I had quite early on with my older brother, he said to me, he said, imagine if we had a rich uncle who would pay us £1,000,000 every single year, but there was one condition that we had to do one thing that we loved. What would your thing be? And then that's when I decided I think my thing would be helping other people make it to the Premier League level and start to coach football. And I started doing that, and I couldn't really find anyone to pay me other than a few parents. So they started to pay me to coach their kids, and then it started to grow into a really big football academy. I started to bring in some more coaches, started to do some marketing, started to do training sessions and apply for funding and things like this. And lo and behold, I was developing all these different entrepreneurial skills just following my passion. And then after that, I realized that these skills can also be used to other things that I love. So literally, I went on a mission to try and create a business in everything that I loved in the fashion sector and this and that. And that's when I started to do that whole dabbling stage of entrepreneurship. And I just felt more and more in love with it as I was learning more and more from mentors and books that I was reading. And it's always good when you're making a bit of money and all your other classmates are looking at you thinking, who is this kid Richie Rich? Where's he getting all this money from? So that's always a good motivator. But by the time I was going into university, I made it a mission to make enough money to pay off all the tuition fees. And that was my only goal. So I went really serious with business there. And thankfully, I achieved that goal by the time I was like second year of uni. I'd moved out on my own. I'd bought my second car. I was really enjoying the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur. And yeah, I had a lot of people who come up to me and say, hey, Junior, I see what you're doing. You seem to be doing well. It all looks legal. How do you do this stuff? So I started to basically share my expertise and stuff that I was learning and things and how I'd done things with other people. And that's where I guess it led me to my next phase of really coaching people. And that's where I've been at for the past 10 years now, just coaching other entrepreneurs and teaching them how to make it happen for themselves.
Wow, that is truly inspirational. You really are at the heart of the entrepreneurial scene in London now, and credit to you for the hard work that's brought you to that point, and you're so respected as well. I see that when I'm at the events, how you really are so genuine and so caring for others. You really do want to see others
Thank you.
succeed, and you put so much effort into helping those people. And you talk there about what is it that you wanted to do, and you wanted to help people, and get into the Premier League. And I often ask that question as well of people, if someone was going to write you out a check for like £10,000 a month, but you had to do something, you had to work in some way in order to keep receiving that check, what would you do? And invariably, it's always helping people, whether it's helping people get fit, helping people get rich, helping people improve their soccer skills. It's nice in a way that, that is the human nature to help others when you boil it down. And is that what you find with most people that you work with and coach as well?
Yeah, definitely. You get two types of people. You get people who think it's about helping themselves, and that's the way to get towards their goal. And then you get the people who discover that the way that I get my goal is actually by helping other people get their goal. And that's where the magic starts to happen. So, you will, I do bump into a lot of people who are sort of misguided, and they start to think, I need to accumulate as much wealth as I can. I need to do this for myself. I need to build this myself. But ultimately, it's all about adding value. If you add value, people will give you tokens of value in exchange, which is basically money. And that's where you start to get whatever you need.
I used to quote Jim Rohn on this, but I saw recently it was accredited to Zig Ziglar that if you help enough people get
Yeah,
what they want, you'll get everything
yeah,
that you want.
exactly.
So you mentioned one of your books there, Junior, and that was How to Be a Student Entrepreneur. So at what point what age were you when you wrote that book? And just tell us a little bit about the process behind that. How easy was it to write your first book, and how did you get it out there, and
Yeah,
what sort of
sure.
impact did that have?
So it was quite a funny story. Basically, I was at an event, and I just graduated. So I was about 21 years old, just graduated. I knew I wanted to do more stuff in entrepreneurship. And I was at an event listening to, I think, Tony Robbins and just all these other big speakers. I think Lord Sugar was there and things like that. It was very inspiring, listening to these people. You just want to take over the whole world. And I was on my way to the toilet at the end, and then they had someone that tried to sign me up for an author's course. So I was just being a bit cheeky, and I was like, I'm already an author. It's all right. I just want to go to the toilet. Thanks. Leave me alone. They pulled me over and said, tell me more about the book. And because I just graduated and all I knew was entrepreneurship, I said, oh, the book's called How to Be a Student Entrepreneur. And then I started to basically just blag my way and talk about things that I thought should be in a book like that. And then lo and behold, I got a phone call about 3 days later from a sister company of theirs. They're basically a publishing company. They called me up and said, oh, are you Junior Ogunyemi? I said, yeah. They said, are you the author of How to Be a Student Entrepreneur? I said, yeah. Bear in mind, I haven't written one word of this book yet. And then they said, can you tell us a bit more about the book? And again, I just started to talk about things that I thought should be in a book like that, basically. And then they said, how many pages is it? And I said, well, on my laptop, it's about 100 or so pages. And then they paused for a second and they said, okay, yeah, that's good. I thought a few. and then they asked me, how many chapters is it? And then I said, around about 9 chapters. And they said, oh, well, normally we expect 12 chapters. I said, yeah, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm still working on it. And then basically by the end of the conversation, they offered me a publishing contract. They said, if you send a book in to us within the next month and just quickly put the finishing touches to it and send it in to us in the next month, we'll look to get it published if we like it. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And then I got off the phone and I realized that I needed to write a book in a month. Otherwise, my big opportunity and my integrity would be on the line. So in true entrepreneurial fashion, I jumped and started to build my wings on the way down. And I turned my old bedroom into an office. And then I started to basically spend the remaining 3 to 4 weeks just writing my heart out. And yeah, I completed a book in 3 weeks. And I think it was possible to do it that quick because I was already teaching other people. I'd already got in the habit of teaching other people how to do certain things and what mindset they should be in. So it was literally just me standing in front of a laptop and just talking to myself and typing. And then because I'd never written a book before and I actually don't know how the whole process was, I got it independently proofread and edited. So what usually happens is you'll send it off for proofreading first. And based on the proofreading, they'll give you a quote on how much work is required for the editing. So I got the proofreading back, and the proofreader said, you know what, it fell in place perfectly, first draft. You hit the nail on the head. This is the best piece of work I've seen. There's nothing to really change. I'm just going to make 1 or 2 minor edits, but there's no real changes there. You don't need to pay anything for editing. It's fine.
Well, you're
Yeah.
natural.
And with that seal of approval, then I gave it over to the publishers, and they basically reiterated it and said, this is amazing. We want to publish it. And then 4 months later, it was launched at London Business Startup Show in front of about 3,000 people. And then the journey began, basically.
When was that? What year was that?
That was late 2011. I think it was November 2011 it was first published. I remember that week quite vividly because 3 weeks just after it was launched, I was doing literally 2 to 3 events per day, talking up and down the country as part of a whole big PR campaign to promote the book. And then that's also where people started to realize, oh, he's actually quite a good speaker. Let's pay him to do this. And I said, yeah, I don't mind. So I got myself into a lot of speaking work, and I guess that's where I spend most of my time now. And I'm most known as an inspirational speaker or a coach.
And I'm sure there's many people listening now who understand the importance of a book in that kind of jigsaw puzzle of building your personal brand and the opportunities. They often say, you're not going to make loads of money from the book sales alone, but it's all the spin-off opportunities and the brand. And then, as you say, being able to go out and charge good fees to speak. And you've had international speaking opportunities as well
Yeah,
now,
I've been
haven't
able
you?
to speak on TEDx, spoke across Europe. I'm actually going over to Dubai next month to speak at a global conference, and I've pretty much done almost every single school across the UK at this time as well. I love the speaking part because you get to interact with people, you get to meet people. The book is almost just a ticket to doing that. And in fact, if anybody writes a book, definitely be prepared to be a speaker as well, because that's probably the best advice I can give any author. Because the moment you become an author, you are literally the authority figure on that topic, and everybody wants to hear what the authority figure has to say. So it does definitely open the doors for more PR and more business opportunities and speaking opportunities. I know many authors just, I guess, they want to stay behind the pen and paper and not speak, but it does wonders for your career, and it's a natural progression. I didn't actually expect that when I first wrote when I wrote my first book. Obviously, I just wrote the book because I saw the opportunity there. I never expected to be a speaker. However, it was something that I just sort of fell into. So in hindsight, I'll be a lot more prepared, and I'd always advise people always be prepared to do a lot more public speaking afterwards.
There's so much I want to go on to, but just on whilst we're talking about the book, there's a lot of people who write a book and then it's kind of finished and they're like, okay, what do I do now? And maybe those speaking opportunities and things don't come. What's the one piece of advice?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I guess it's not just with authors, it's with any creative or anybody that has a gift and a talent, but they can't build a business around it. I guess the best piece of advice I can give is your skill or your talent is not enough. You need to make money from it by building a business around it. Ed Sheeran, he's a great musician, but he's actually a business. And you have to look at it in that sense. Cristiano Ronaldo is a very talented footballer, but he's also a product. He's a business. There's a business around him. And if you're going to make serious money doing what you love or around your passion, being good at something is not enough, because you get into that whole starving actor or starving artist syndrome where you're very creative, you're very good at something, but whenever you present it to the world, you can't sell it. I meet many authors who are like that, and they're really their books are amazing, but if nobody knows about it, it doesn't mean anything. So all the business principles, from how to sell, how to market, how to network, how to build a business model, it's all very relevant if you're going to monetize from your gift and from your talent. I don't think anybody can become super successful without building the business side of things. And I understand that most creatives probably don't want to get into that. I meet loads of people who come on my business courses and they're like, Junior, can you just do this for me? Because I just want to stick to the fun part and do all the creative work. I don't want to have to worry about money, or I don't want to have to charge for it. But the two go hand in hand, because a business is just basically a system. It's a system to monetize from value. If your product is valuable, that's just one half of it. The other half is you now need to build a system or even an ecosystem so that you can get that value to the people who would give you tokens of value in exchange. Just in summary, basically, don't just focus on being good at something, focus on being good at something and being good at business as well.
I'm a big advocate of wealth dynamics profile test from Roger Hamilton, and there's obviously many profile tests out there which can help people to just get really clear on what their unique talents are, and then to understand maybe who you need to find as part of your entrepreneurial team, so that you're not trying to do everything on your own. And if maybe sales and marketing is not your strength, then you can maybe find people in your team that can assist a bit more with that, or if it's systems or creativeness or service,
Yeah,
whatever it
spot
may
on.
be.
Yeah, it's very true.
So that was the first book, and that had a big impact clearly, and led to all the speaking gigs. And then how long was it until you brought out the second book?
So the second book came, I think it was 2016. So it was almost 5 years, actually. To be honest, I actually had the idea for the second book in 2014, but I was still so busy around the buzz and the workload of the first book that it just didn't die down. And entrepreneurship, especially amongst youth, was becoming ever more popular. So I didn't actually get the luxury of time to sit down again and write. That's what took me, I guess, a longer period to write the second one. But the second one came at the stage where most people who'd read the first book had grown with me. So they'd gone into a career without really knowing what their purpose is in life or what they really want to do. But just because they needed to pay the bills, they've gone into a career, and then now they're coming back to me to say, "Hey, Junior, you know about entrepreneurship. Can you help me get out the rat race?" I'm not one to sort of tell people, "Yeah, just go fire your boss and walk away," because let's be realistic. People have bills to pay and they have responsibilities. Some people have children, so I always try to create a strategy. I do think it's possible for everybody to get out of the rat race. And I started to create these pathways and these strategies for people to go through. And then I realized I was pretty much saying the same thing to different people, but there was only like 6 different strategies that I'll give people. So I started to come up with this framework and this concept about 6 strategies to get out the rat race, because everybody I spoke to always fell in one of these 6 strategies. The whole strategy is there to help you decide if you should leave the rat race and also when you should leave the rat race.
Would you mind giving us a brief summary of
Yeah,
those 6
definitely.
strategies?
So
Is it
basically,
possible?
just to give you some context, it's all dependent on a few factors. Number one, whether you have a high level of responsibility or whether you currently have a low level of responsibility. And then the other factors to consider are whether you love your job, whether you hate your job, or whether you don't even have a job. What I do, I draw basically like a matrix. And if you can imagine, at the top of it, it has a column full of people with low level of responsibility and people with high level of responsibility. And then there's 3 rows. The first row is people who hate their job. The second row is people who love their job. And the third row is people who don't have a job. And I was thinking, what would be a really memorable way to categorize each person? You have like personality tests where they say, you're a blue, or they name you after flowers or gemstones. And I thought, well, why don't we name them after farm animals? So it's just a sort of funny way to remember it. So I talk about 6 different farm animals basically. The first one is the horse, and the horse is basically someone that has a high level of responsibility. So it's quite a big farm animal, and they hate their job. If you can imagine a horse just being cooped up in the stables all day, and it really wants to be out there on a racetrack and do something different. And then you also have the other people who have a low level of responsibility, but they also hate their job. And I call those the chickens. And chickens are, smaller animals, so they've got less responsibility. And then you have the people who love their jobs, which are the cows and the sheep. So cows have high level responsibility, but they actually love their job. And the sheep has a low level responsibility and loves its job. And then you have the other 2 animals, which are not actually farm animals. And these are the people that don't actually have a job, but might have a high level of responsibility, which is the fox. And then you have the last one, which is someone that has no job, but has very little responsibilities in life. And that's what I call a mouse. So an example of a mouse might be a university student. They're probably still living at home with their mum and dad, and they haven't, got much responsibilities, but they haven't signed themselves off to a job yet. So they're probably thinking, should I be an entrepreneur? How do I get out of the rat race? When should I do it? In the scenario of a mouse, which I was when I was in university, I'll say, yeah, just go ahead and do it. Those people, I'll say, go and jump. If, for example, we had someone who was a horse, so they had a high level of responsibility, but they really hated their job, I wouldn't tell them to just go ahead and do it. I'd first of all sit down and create a timeline for them and runway of when they should do it and how long they can actually bear their job for. Typically, because they're working and if they have a high level of responsibility, they might have a lot of cash flow, but not a lot of time. So if someone's a horse, I'd usually tell them, first of all, get a business partner, and you pump the money in while your business partner pumps the time in. So keep your job. Use the income from your job to actually build your get out business, basically, or your side business that's going to help you and your business partner escape. But because you don't have any time to put towards it, because you're probably working full time, get a business partner on board, and then that will be the quickest way for you to both basically get out of the rat race. And then there's other people like the cow and the sheep who actually love what they're doing. They've already found their calling, found their purpose, but they're probably just not getting paid enough for it. They might not even necessarily need to leave their job. They can probably stay in their job because, again, it's not, I wouldn't say everybody should leave their job. Some people are genuinely content and it is their dream job and they're getting very well paid for it. So, fair play to you. The only reason I'd say go set up a business was for that extra level of security, because we know there pretty much is no such thing as job security nowadays. So that would be the only circumstance where I'll tell them, go set up a business. The fact that you love your job, keep doing what you're doing, basically. So it depends on pretty much what stage people are at, whether they've got a high level of responsibility or a low level of responsibility, whether they love their job, hate their job, or whether they don't actually have a job yet. Based on that, the book basically answers whether you should leave your job in the first place and go set up a business. And if you are going to go set up a business, how you should go about setting up the business, whether you go for a business partner, whether you just go for it and take the leap, whether you start to build up cash flow first. But yeah, it just basically paints a path so everyone gets a lot more clarity around this big sort of mystery question.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think it's super important there because we see, especially in London, so many events every weekend. You've got so much going on that people who are at that crossroads looking for a new path, like an escape plan, it can be so overwhelming for so many people because everyone's telling you you can get rich doing this, you can build your wealth. And some people dive into something and it's just not the right fit
Yeah,
for
yeah,
them or it's not
definitely.
the right time. Taking a moment to just assess that, go through that matrix there and just say, okay, well, this is maybe the right direction for me, or maybe I shouldn't do this just yet. Or as you say, maybe I need to look for a partner and then have much more success working in tandem. So that's really, really
Yeah, yeah,
useful, I
and
think, for
some of the
people.
testimonies from the book has been quite amazing how people have grasped it, and I mean, everything I try to do, I just try to simplify it for people who are at that crossroads or their judgment is quite clouded, because the danger is, as you mentioned, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of opportunities. You can really get caught up in the hype of reading, blog articles and headlines about this person who just quit their job and they made millions of pounds online and being a digital nomad, or this person who went into property and then they just made millions. And the reality is that that's probably usually an exceptional case. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody, I guess, should do that. But then there's also the other angle of things of, when should I actually do this? Is now the best time? It depends on what's happening in life. And that's where I start to throw in the things about, look at your responsibilities. Don't just make an emotional decision. I know some people who they've had a bad day at work and they've just come up with a conclusion that, yep, I'm going to quit my job right now. And, you're making a long-term decision based on such a short-term emotion. Or I really hate my coworker, so that's why I want to go set up a business. Well, a business, you could hate your business partner as well, or you could get a couple of clients that you hate as well. So just because you hate your coworker is not necessarily grounds for you to go set up a business, because that could be just as hard. And what if your coworker leaves tomorrow? Then all of a sudden you go back to loving your business, your employment. It's always cloudy for most people. So I just try to create a bit of clarity with what I do, basically.
So it's been really interesting hearing your journey evolve, Junior, and I think it's one that so many of our listeners will be on at some different level and different stage of that journey themselves. And this has led into events where you are now hosting really, really big events in London. And we talked about the Entrepreneur Academy London earlier on, which has been a phenomenal success. And I just want to touch on that. I also want to thank you, first of all, because two of our early podcast guests, which were Carrie Green and Brad Burton, I made the connection with them through
Oh,
the Entrepreneur
fantastic.
Academy
Good
London.
luck.
So thank you for that. I kind of stole them and said, come on the podcast. And obviously then I was like, we have to get Junior as well, because Junior is the man that brought everything together. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because I know that that's going under a rebrand now and you're about to launch the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
coming of that. So tell us what the Entrepreneur Academy London is.
So the Entrepreneur Academy basically is an accelerator program for entrepreneurs to share with each other. It's a big mastermind group. It's a massive mastermind group, actually, where I think last year we had in total about 150 entrepreneurs. And every single month we get guest speakers who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, to come down and basically share the reality of what it is to be an entrepreneur and just basically teach tons and tons and tons of content so people can go away, apply it to their business, and they come back next month for another dose. So it's basically three key elements. Number one is the skills. We want entrepreneurs to develop skills. And I think I got sick of going to loads of seminars where they don't actually teach you enough content for what you pay for. I think that's where it started to really stir up the whole idea of the academy, where the speakers aren't there to necessarily sell anything. They're just there to give value. I think that's where it's most effective. And then we also got the networking aspect, which we knew would be useful to people, but we didn't. I think we really underestimated how much people actually valued the network. Because I used to hate going to business or networking events where you'll exchange business cards with someone and then you'll never hear from them again. So we really wanted it to be a bit of a closed networking group where you can start to foster and build relationships properly. So you can get lifelong supporters, you can get people to give you feedback on your products and stuff like that, and also give the entrepreneurs the opportunity to pitch to one another in case there was any business out there, or if there's any support that was required and partnerships that can be formed. And then we also do stuff like social events as well. The other side was the inspirational part, because I don't know any entrepreneur who hasn't felt like giving up at least 10 times because especially at the startup phase, it can be very, very difficult. And sometimes just hearing people who've been there, done that, and they've been in your situation and transitioned out of it is the most timely thing you can hear. Not only would they give you strategies, but they usually end up giving you quite a lot of hope and motivation. And, we've had people say that from one session at the Academy, they've done more work than they've ever done in their entire life. And I think that's a testament to our speakers and the environment of the members that they create amongst themselves in terms of being such an amazing support group for one another. And literally, they really are each other, their brother's keeper, and they support each other to the fullest. I guess I can't even really take credit for how overwhelmingly amazing it's been. I think it's been more the members and people like yourself sharing and supporting each other and other people, and definitely our speakers and the team that we have put together. So that's basically what the whole academy is, and that's why it was designed. I wanted a place where entrepreneurs can come together, share ideas, and also learn without being sold to every week. And also, I guess, a place where they can pick up their dose of inspiration, because when you are out there and you're alone, sometimes even your own family members might not believe in your idea. It can be very discouraging. When things are riding high, everybody wants to celebrate you. But when things are going low, having somewhere like the academy that you can come into for a pick-me-up is just what the doctor ordered sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is testament to you as well, Junior. I'll say that because the community vibe, I think, was so special. That I've made so many relationships, business relationships from that community. People that I'm really, really good friends with now that I speak to. So I want to thank you once again on behalf of everyone for putting that together. And you mentioned earlier to me, you're making some changes with that. So tell us a little bit about how phase two is going to look.
So we've changed the name. We found that Entrepreneur Academy London was very generic. Although we did make quite a big brand, we've now relaunched it to be Entrepower. In a sense, when there's power when entrepreneurs come together, and that's what's sort of been proven. And I think the name was always a guinea pig name anyway. But yeah, so now we've rebranded it into Entrepower Academy. We've added a digital arm. So now members also get access to digital content, courses, all free. And it's all included into their package as well. We've now added an entrepreneur summit. Many of the big name speakers that we had last year, we're going to now invite them back so that everybody can see all the speakers in one conference, basically. I still don't know how we're going to fit all the speakers on one stage. We might have to go into a 2-day conference, but it's going to be a very powerful event. So yeah, it's the first time we're going to do that summit, and we're hoping for at least 500 people at that summit. There's going to be one of the biggest things we have, and then we're still going to be doing our monthly mastermind groups for people to come learn. But this time the groups are going to be focused more on, or each session is going to be focused on different topics. So 1 month might be an expert sharing their expertise on fundraising. Another one might be a marketing guru. Another one might be a sales coach. And then they'll come down and basically share and teach with our members. But pretty much everything else that we did last year that got right, we're going to continue to do that. We've also forming quite a lot of partnerships based on the success of last year. We've been connecting with some of the biggest government agencies in entrepreneurship, and they've actually reached out to us because they have a network of almost 200,000 businesses, and there's not much support that they can provide around startups. So they come to us for support on that side of things. So we're forming some partnerships, which basically means for our members, once they do leave the academy or as they start to grow their business past the 0 to 2 years phase, we can now signpost them to people to get possible investment, further funding, further training if it needs be, international expansion. And yeah, so that's really a big bonus, and that's also what's led to part of the rebrand as well. Just being able to merge with other organizations to take things further.
I think the name is spot on because it is powerful what you're providing there. And we're not talking about thousands and thousands of pounds to get involved here either. I mean, the value that you deliver is incredible. I'm certain that there's going to be many listeners who are at a stage where they feel that they need that extra support. So for anyone that is interested in having a look and finding out
Yeah, I
more
say
about
just go
that,
to our
Junior,
website.
where
It's
would you point them?
Entrepower, as in entrepreneur power, entrepower.co.uk. And yeah, it's not thousands and thousands of pounds. Literally, depending on the package that you want and how much support you need, we'll make sure it fits within the budget. But I don't think any of our programs even go beyond £800, and the lowest you can jump on for about £25 a month actually. So we try to make it inclusive for everybody. We do have a sort of vetting phase where we like to speak to you at least and find out what support you need. But it's not to really turn people away. It's just to make sure that we get them onto the best package basically that fits their need.
No, so go check that out. Absolutely. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. And of course, that's in London right now. I'm sure in the future, as things grow, you may look to take that international. But at the moment in London, and I mean, you pulled in some heavyweight guests last year. We had James
Yeah.
Caan there from Dragon's Den and Kanya King, real serious, big time entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
So,
it
yeah,
was
amazing,
really great to have
amazing
them,
there.
and I think that was all part of it in the sense where let's get people that are respected in the industry and they can really give a holistic view, because one thing that they all had in common was they all started from very humble beginnings, which is where I envisioned a lot of our entrepreneurs would be at. So all the speakers started from very humble beginnings, and Brad Burton talking about he's struggles with substance abuse and going in and out of jail, and Kanye King talking about being a single mother and just starting out and things like that, and Carrie Green starting out from being a student lost in the world and having no direction to building a huge platform, and people like Bianca Miller as well, going from nowhere to being an overnight celebrity on Apprentice. That's one thing that we always looked at, and I think that's a theme that we want to keep, just to show people that it is possible. And yeah, it's definitely possible, and it's definitely something that we would encourage, that no matter what stage you're at, there's support there for you, and these are how these people did it.
I like that a lot. I think that just really sums up the whole entrepreneur spirit there, that you can't hide behind excuses. You have to take 100% responsibility, because if you want it badly enough, then you can make it happen. You can't blame other people or the circumstances, because we've all got the same circumstances. We've all got issues. We've all got things that are holding us back if we let them. But if you really, really are determined and you get your mindset right and you get the right people around you, and then you're focused, then, there's nothing that can stop you. I know that you have helped so many people to get on that path, Junior, as well. So we're coming to the end of our time. I always ask our guests towards the end, firstly, as an entrepreneur, do you have any regrets for that lifestyle? Do you sometimes wish that you did have that safe, secure job, sat at a desk every day with that nice commute?
Nah, not really. In the midst of the worst times, it's easy to doubt or regret. But once you get to the end result,
Yeah.
you realize that I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't turn back. I'm glad I didn't quit. What I realize is that it's a journey, and I've got to the stage now where I don't even look at my bank account, because if you look at the bank account and there's loads of zeros there and it's quite good, then you can sometimes get a bit complacent and think you're doing really well and get carried away. And if you look at the bank account and it's in minus, then you can get a bit discouraged and start to panic. But you realize that there is no such thing as security, really. There never is. It's always an illusion. And Even if worse comes to worse, and you're doing all these entrepreneurial things and they fail, and I have failed at many entrepreneurial ventures. Probably for every successful venture I've created, there's probably about 10 different failures as well. I think the thing about me is I made a decision, and I always remind myself of the decision, that I would rather try and fail. I can definitely live with trialing and failing, but I cannot live with not trying. I can't really bear that. That will be the biggest regret, that I had this idea and I never actually gave it a go, or I had this opportunity and I never even explored it. And if the opportunity turns out to be nothing, or if the idea turns out to be nonsense and it all ends up failing, then at least I can live with myself to know that, hey, I give it a good shot. I can't live with myself in that sort of limbo phase of, I don't know what could have been, or I should have, would have, could have. I think that really drives me throughout the tough times. And you ride the storms, and when cash flow is hard, you say, yeah, no, I wish there was security, but then cash flow turns really good, and then you go back and take more crazy risks. And you just keep going, basically. And that's one thing I learned, that the behavior patterns of most entrepreneurs don't really change. It doesn't matter about how much money they have. If you have £10, you risk that £10 to try and get 100. If you have £1,000, you risk that £1,000 to try and get 100,000. If you have 10 million, you'll risk that to try and get a billion. But yeah, it's what's consistent is that you continue to take risks, because on the other side of that risk is the reward. You have to take the risk, otherwise there is no reward in the end. Otherwise, you will have to just be content with where you are. But if you know that you can do more, you can be more, you can have more, you have to take that risk, because that's where the growth lies.
Wise words, wonderful words leaves on there, Junior, and inspiration for anyone listening now who's maybe considering something, but the fear's holding them back. They say that, on the deathbed, the things that people regret are not the things that they did, but the things that
Definitely.
they didn't do. So just do it.
Exactly. Just as
Junior, it's
Nike
been a
said, just
pleasure
do it.
speaking with you. I really, really have enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Chris.
yeah. And we mentioned Entrepower there, .co.uk, for those that are interested in maybe finding out more about how they can get involved in the launch,
Yeah.
which is coming, I know, at the end of September 2017. And for anyone else who wants to just find out a bit more about you or connect with you online, Junior, do you use social media, website that people can go to?
Yeah, so you could just search my name, juniorugyemi.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter as JR_entrepreneur. And I'm on Facebook as just my name as well. But you can check out the Academy. Our next event, we do events every single month. It's usually the last Wednesday of every month. Sometimes we do 2 events per month. If anybody wants to come down to one of our events and try it out, then by all means, you're more than welcome. Just give the team a shout. We'll send you a free ticket to come down and meet some of our team members and come and learn some stuff. But if it's not for you, then so be it. But if it is for you, then I'm sure we would love to take you on that journey and help you get to that next level. I know we've done it with loads of other people, but there's loads more out there that needs this type of support. And if that's you, we're definitely available. Our doors are open. People could just go onto our website, entrepower.co.uk, and you can book a free ticket at our next event.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes. So if you're listening now, and just click on the image, bring up the show notes, and all the links that we've talked about today will be in there as well. So, Junior, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to catching up with you again really soon. I wish you and Lauren all the best moving forward.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Well, I really hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Junior Ogunyemi and some of the lessons that he shared there, how he managed to pay off his student debt by year 2, just by learning to think like an entrepreneur and take action. And it was following his passions, the things that he was really interested in, and then thinking, how can I monetize this? How can I share this with more people, leveraging his knowledge and his connections there? And helping people, being at the heart of really what most people would do if money was no object and you had to pick something to do every day. What would that involve? And if you haven't thought about that, take some time to reflect on what that would be for you. I think one of the big lessons there, which comes out from all of my conversations across Escape the Rat Race radio shows with all of the guests that I've invited, is that determination and belief is core to the entrepreneur mindset. Without the belief in yourself, those tough times that are guaranteed to come along will grab you. The weeds will grab you, and it will be tough to break through that So support groups, mentors, crucially important. And without taking some risk, there is no reward. A very, very valuable thing to remember. So I thank Junior once again. And if you're interested, obviously, in checking out Entrepower, do head over to entrepower.co.uk. That's it for me. Final reminder, if you haven't already joined the Escape the Rat Race private Facebook group, head over to www.etrr.online/Facebook, which will take you right there. And if you'd like to join and register for the next 5-step Freedom Formula webinar, then head over to etrr.online and you will see the big purple button right there, ready for you to click and register your place. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead. See ya.